Hi there, this is Ram Shivakumar from Chicago booth. This is the first in several videos that I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks on economics and you. Today's discussion is on a concept that many, if not all of you, will have first encountered in an economics class. This is the concept or idea of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is probably the single most important idea that you will encounter in the classroom. Why is that so? Because the central question for humans is this: what should we do and not do, and why? All of us have only 24 hours in a day and a finite life. And this is a question that all of us will ponder, no matter how young or old we are. So how is it that humans decide? Very roughly speaking, what people do is they balance expected benefits and expected costs, where benefits are measured in utility, consumer surplus, pleasure, or profit, or economic gain in the form of money. And we balance that with expected costs, which is resources and time spent, money that goes out, and so on. One problem, as economics points out, is what is your measure of costs? Which costs are you counting and not counting? Is this just your out-of-pocket costs or direct costs? Or does this include your indirect costs? Does this include your implicit costs? Economics offers this idea. The correct cost concept is opportunity cost. What you give up when you do something. The opportunity cost of X is what you give up when you do X. And economics says that the opportunity cost of X is the explicit cost of X plus the implicit cost of X. So what is the explicit cost of X? Money that goes out-of-pocket costs, money that you spend on food, on rent, on clothing and miscellaneous. Or if you're a business, money you spend on wages, raw materials, rent, etc. And then there's the implicit cost. What is the implicit cost? This is the cost and benefit of some other activity Y. If you do X, you are not doing Y. So the implicit cost of X is your foregone not net benefits. That is the benefits you're giving up minus the costs that you avoid. So let me talk about 6 different ways we encounter opportunity costs. And many, if not all of these, will be familiar to you. When you're young, you're thinking, what is the cost of going to, for instance, medical school? Well, there is, of course, the explicit cost of going to medical school, the tuition and so on. But what is the implicit cost? The implicit cost is the career that you give up, a career in the arts or a career in music. Noting, of course, that there is the pleasure of being, for instance, a musician, minus the cost that you're going to incur if you go and become a musician. Now, not all of us are going to be Olivia Rodrigo. Now, let's think fast forward a little bit. Imagine you've now graduated from college and you're thinking, what career should you pursue? You've graduated with a degree in, say, economics, statistics, and computer science. And you might think, what is the cost of becoming a data scientist? Well, there is the explicit cost. All of the time that you need to spend doing it, which may or may not be a pleasure. But the implicit cost is what you give up. For example, a career as a YouTuber. It is amusing to note that Levy Rosman, who is known as Gotham Chess, has spent much of his time post his undergraduate career talking about chess, his passion, while his parents want him to get a real job. He has 4 million plus YouTube followers and is a household name across the world. Here's another one that will be very familiar to you: choosing a partner for life, marriage. In ancient India, this was called a swayamvar, where a daughter of a king, usually a princess, would get to choose a partner. So, what is the cost of choosing Mr. X? It is the implicit cost of Mr. X, which is what you give up. I guess the modern day version of that would be The Bachelor. and I'm looking at this picture that all of you are, and I'm seeing the bachelorette, I guess, with all the perspectives. And I'm thinking of this book I read many years ago by Barry Schwartz called The Paradox of Choice, which is that when you have too many choices, it's very hard to make a decision. Furthermore, you're never quite sure whether you chose the right person. Let's talk about another one. What is the cost of taking a family cruise? Well, there is, of course, the explicit cost of the cruise. But what is the implicit cost? Your kitchen upgrade. Minus, of course, the inconvenience of having your kitchen demolished and built up again. What is the cost of holding on to, for instance, your ancestral home? Well, there is, of course, the cost of maintaining the home. And then there is the implicit cost, which is the foregone net benefits. Perhaps money in the bank that could have been earning interest, a condo somewhere else, and so on. And then let's talk about one last one, quitting your corporate job. Now, this is the opportunity cost question we encounter in the textbook in reverse, which is we are leaving something and we're asking what is the cost of quitting your corporate job? Well, the cost of quitting your corporate job is your explicit cost, which is your foregone salary, foregone 401k, foregone health insurance. What about your implicit cost? Well, your implicit cost is what you're going to get when you go and do something else. For instance, if you take up job Y, well, then there is the salary that you will get. That is a benefit now, minus the cost that you will incur to take up job Y. So this is the opportunity cost question in reverse. So these are 6 ways in which we encounter opportunity cost in life. Now, this is the point in my talk today where I throw a question at you. Many of you will be familiar with this moment if you took a class with me, because this is when I cold call you and ask you a question. Today you will have the luxury of not being cold called, or at least me not knowing your name or calling your name. So here is a question that was posed to 199 economists some years ago. So you won a free ticket to see an Eric Clapton concert. The concert has no resale value. Bob Dylan is performing on the same night and is your next best alternative activity. And the cost of a ticket is $40, the cost of a Dylan concert. On any given day, you'd be willing to pay as much as $50 to see Dylan. Now, assuming that there are no other costs of seeing either Clapton or Dylan, what is the opportunity cost of seeing Eric Clapton? This was the question that is posed to 199 economists. So here are the choices, and I want you to make one. Choice A, $0. Choice B, $10. Choice C, $40. Choice D, $50. Once again, choice A, $0. Choice B, $10. Choice C, $40. Choice D, $50. I'd like you to pick. Now, what did we learn from the choices that the 199 economists made? 27.6% chose D, $50. 25.6% chose C, $40. 25.1% chose A, $0. And 21.6% chose B, $10. So what is it that we learn from all this? That even trained economists have an unclear understanding of opportunity cost when a real problem is thrown at them. The correct answer to this question is B, $10. Why is that? Well, the explicit cost of attending Clapton is $0 because the ticket is free. The implicit cost is the benefit of attending Dylan minus the cost of attending Dylan, which is $50 minus $40 equals 10. And since explicit cost is 0 and implicit cost is 10, opportunity cost is 10. So the correct answer is B. So why then did a sample of economists choose $50? Well, because they focused on the foregone benefit and ignored the avoided cost. What about those who chose $40? Well, they confused the avoided cost for the implicit cost. And what about people who chose $0? Well, they seem to have focused on explicit cost alone. So this is very roughly speaking the range of mistakes that we make. But remember this, opportunity cost is always explicit cost plus implicit cost. Explicit cost is all your out-of-pocket costs. Implicit cost is your foregone benefits minus your avoided costs. Don't forget that. You need to deduct your avoided costs as well. Let me close with some final thoughts. There's a very big difference between answering textbook questions like the one I just showed you and choosing in real life. So why is it that we fumble with opportunity costs? For one, we ignore the alternative. We are unable to conceive of what else is both feasible and desirable, or we simply ignore it. And second, we miscalculate. We overestimate benefits and underestimate costs. But you should also know this. The use of opportunity cost as a conceptual idea does not preclude you and me from making decisions that don't work out. Over time, the repeated use of the opportunity cost concept will discipline us to develop a clearer sense of what choices entail by way of benefits and costs. Nevertheless, it's always useful to remember that we should be doing the right things for the right reasons. I'm going to close with some final words of wisdom from Charlie Munger, who passed away last week. I was reading the Financial Times a few days ago, and I came across this quote attributed to him, in which he says, "Life is a series of opportunity costs. You've got to marry the best person who is convenient to find, who will have you. Investment is much the same sort of process.